I love her every day. Not just on Mother's Day, but I love my mother on President's Day, on Election Day, on Labor Day, Independence Day, Columbus Day, Earth Day, Memorial Day, Flag Day, Groundhog's Day, April Fool's Day, New Year's Day, St. Patrick's Day, and yes, even on Father's Day, I love my mother.
Come on, you know I had to open up this commentary with that song. That was easily the highlight of Raw. Extreme Rules was a great show. Raw was not. I even debated if I would even come up here and talk about Raw, but since my Extreme Rules reaction video was so short and quick and to the point, and I didn't even see the show live, I basically just gave initial reactions, so I figured I'd better come up here and talk a little bit about Raw and mention a few more things about Extreme Rules that I had a chance to see now that I've gone back and watched the whole thing. Gonna touch on a little bit of Raw here. Of course, I'm gonna skip around a little bit because Raw does not deserve a match-by-match or segment-by-segment review. This show was pretty bad for a post-pay-per-view Raw. Had its good moments. There was a few things that I liked, but there was a lot that I didn't like. Let's start with one of the things I liked. My homies, my boys, The Shield. Dean Ambrose actually lost his U.S. title, much to the delight of good mic work. I have no problem with this whatsoever. That title is pointless on Dean Ambrose. The Shield are still such a strong unit, and Dean Ambrose has held that title for so long, it's almost as if they're not doing anything with it. And Sheamus obviously has been back for a while. He is definitely not going to be in the world title picture right now, so it gives Sheamus something to do. Sheamus won the Battle Royal. I thought it was a very good Battle Royal. Dean Ambrose survived all the way to the end. Sheamus ended up eliminating him and winning the U.S. title. Good for Sheamus and good for the Shield. They can get themselves away from that belt and move on. And a little side note about Dean Ambrose, I love him. He's definitely my favorite Shield member. I know Roman Reigns is going to be the breakout star. I know that he's the one that WWE has their eye on and has big plans for. But if I'm ranking the Shield members, I actually like Dean Ambrose first, Seth Rollins second, and Roman Reigns third. Now, don't get me wrong. I still like Roman Reigns very much. I love the whole damn group, and I think Roman Reigns is going to be a huge star one day. But he seems to me like the type of guy that in the future, when the Shield finally splits up and they create their own identities and go off on their own, Roman Reigns seems like the type of wrestler that the fans might turn on down the line. I mean, Roman Reigns is good in the ring, but he's not great. He's still big. He's still very agile. He's got a few really good moves, but he's nothing, I don't think, compared to Seth Rollins or Dean Ambrose and what they can do in the ring. And when I look at a guy like Dean Ambrose, how awesome he is on the mic, how good he is in the ring, how intense he can be, he's somebody that I don't think the fans will ever turn on. No matter what side you're on, whether you appreciate the WWE or you're a hater or a mark or a smark or whatever, I think across the board, everybody, pretty much likes and respects Dean Ambrose. And there was a few instances in the match at Extreme Rules against Evolution that he was just awesome. He had a great series of moves, I think, with Randy Orton and a few other guys where he was just, it was just unbelievable, his intensity in the ring. I think he was even getting beat up, but he was just, kind of powering through it all and, super Ambrosing his way, through a few of those spots in the match, and he just looked great. And he's very, very believable, and he has a lot of sympathy, and he does a lot of things really well. I know these guys have always been good workers all the way back to their NXT days, but, really getting to see Dean Ambrose and what he's capable of doing, I think he can be the breakout star of the group before any of them. But, of course, WWE always goes with looks and size, and that's what Roman Reigns has, so it's going to be him. But I think Dean Ambrose can be huge in the future, and he's definitely my favorite Shield member, easily, hands down. After the Battle Royal that Dean Ambrose lost his title in, a Battle Royal that was set up by Triple H and the Authority in order to screw over the Shield, Triple H comes out to the rampway and announces that the Shield is not done competing yet, and the three of them are going to be involved in the main event against the Wyatt family. Now, that would happen a little bit later on in the show, but the Wyatt family actually comes out to the ring and cuts another promo. It does not look like that feud is finished yet, and I was actually wrong about the kid. I actually thought he was the kid from that NFL commercial with Cam Newton. He looked just like him, but the story that the websites are reporting is that he is actually the son of fucking Jameson. How goddamn random is that? Do you guys remember Jameson? I mean, we're talking 25 years ago here. He debuted on Primetime Wrestling when they used to tape it in Stamford in front of the little studio audience, which I think was just office people. And I remember seeing him first on that show, and I think he did some things with the Bobby Heenan show. He might have even hosted it one night. Just a funny, stupid little nerdy character. In later years, I think he started coming out to the ring with the Bushwhackers and doing a few other things on TV. But, I haven't even thought about Jameson in I don't know how many years, a couple of decades. And it turns out, according to the websites, I haven't confirmed this or looked into it myself, but according to what the wrestling websites are saying, that kid was actually Jameson's son. Pretty fucking crazy. Also, I have had a chance to go back, like I said, and watch a little bit more of Extreme Rules, and I did watch the entire cage match between Bray Wyatt and John Cena. A lot of people have been complaining to me about this match. It's funny that even when John Cena loses, now all of a sudden that's not good enough. Now he has to lose a certain way in order to make everybody happy. So a lot of people are saying that John Cena was overbooked in the match. It took all three of the Wyatts to defeat him. They had a cage match, but yet the other two members of the Wyatt family were still involved. That's what I said right from the beginning. Right when the match was first announced, I was like, this is stupid. They're putting the match in a cage to make it seem like there's no way the rest of the Wyatt family can get in the ring. Bullshit, they can just climb over the top. I completely understand and agree with everybody that's saying that John Cena was overbooked and he was beating all three of the Wyatts basically in a handicap match, but explain to me how that's different than any John Cena match. I mean, seriously, where does the surprise part come in? Why is everybody shocked? Is this the first John Cena match you've ever seen? How many times have we seen this guy, have to take on multiple opponents, big-time challenges, and always somehow come out on top? This time he actually lost, and the fans are still pissed off? Are you that surprised? WWE is always going to keep John Cena strong. Even though John Cena, I truly believe, is on the decline. And I don't think we're ever going to see John Cena main event 2 or 3 WrestleManias in a row ever again. I think those days are over. But I still think John Cena is going to be a big part of the WWE. He's still going to be a big character that they use to target a specific demographic that is very, very important to the WWE and their business. They're not going to completely squash and kill this guy. Everybody was saying like, Bray Wyatt, he won, but he just looked like a pile of shit and they buried Bray Wyatt. No, I'm sorry. This was the WWE's tricky booking that they do when they want to elevate a star and keep another guy strong. John Cena was booked the same way he always was, but he lost anyway. And you know what? This feud is not done yet. They are going to have a third match. John Cena apparently came out on the main event. Apparently he's going to respond or cut some sort of a promo on Bray Wyatt, and I'm sure that will lead to a Payback match. I don't know what they're going to do at Payback. I have no idea. It's almost certain to me that this match will happen, and I will admit that I'm a little bit worried because I want Bray Wyatt to come out a stronger character after this feud. And the way this storyline is going, with the kids turning on John Cena and all of that, it reminds me of when Linda McMahon was catatonic during the feud with Vince and Shane at WrestleMania 17, and she comes out of it at the last minute to turn on Vince, or at least to kick him in the balls and help Shane, get the victory. I almost worry that this third match, this rubber match between Bray Wyatt and John Cena is actually going to have John Cena come out on top, and maybe the kid or the kids involved or whatever the Wyatt family is going to do is going to backfire on them, and John Cena will come out victorious in the end. I don't want to see that happen, but I'm worried that it will. I'm not going to get all pissy and negative yet. We have at least 4 weeks until Payback. There's a lot that can happen, and we're going to be able to get a really good idea of how the plans for creative are in this storyline leading up to the pay-per-view in upcoming weeks. So there's a long way to go. This is the type of match that I would like to see Bray Wyatt win. John Cena got the big victory at WrestleMania, and then Bray Wyatt wins the 2 matches after that and moves on to something else. That's what I was hoping we would see, because I'm telling you, I've been saying this for the last 3 or 4 commentaries. I really want to see Bray Wyatt work with Daniel Bryan for the title this summer. I want to see that, before SummerSlam. Daniel Bryan is going to be working with Kane again. They had a good match at Extreme Rules. I will say that. There were no rules. We saw the flaming table. They did a lot of good spots, the forklift, the diving headbutt, all that stuff. So the match was good. I think they can have another good pay-per-view match next month. But I was just a little bit disappointed that this Kane-Daniel Bryan feud is going on one more, because they've already feuded earlier in the year when Kane was corporate Kane, and now they had the big match at Extreme Rules, and now they're going to have another one here at Payback, which is fine as long as it's good. I don't care, and I fully expect Daniel Bryan to retain the WWE title. I did read the stories that apparently, this is all website bullshit, so don't fucking quote me on this, but they are reporting that Batista apparently had turned down an opportunity to work with Daniel Bryan at Payback because he was going to have to job. I don't even know how much I buy into that. Apparently the Raw script was also changed a couple of times because they're not sure what Batista's going to do. Since when is it up to Batista? I understand that he's back to, a big contract, and he's not going to have to work the same schedule as a lot of guys, and he's got that big cushy, superstar contract, but still at the end of the day, you are under contract and you have to do do what you're told. And I'm surprised that Batista has that much pull. Hey, Batista, do you feel like working with Daniel Bryan? No, fuck you, change the script. I almost have a hard time believing that, because as much as I did not like Batista when he first came back, the fans were booing him out of the building, and they actually changed the plans for Batista, leading into WrestleMania. But the last time I've seen Batista, the last 2 times, that is, I've seen Batista on pay-per-view, he's gotten beat. So if these stories are true and Batista doesn't want to do this and he doesn't want to do that for whatever reason, fine. You know what? I don't care. I think a Daniel Bryan-Kane match might be better than a Daniel Bryan-Batista match anyway. And Batista tapped out to Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Why have him lose again at Payback? And if they did go through with the match, basically what this says, what the internet story is telling you, is that even if Batista did agree to do the match at Payback with Daniel Bryan, we know the result. I mean, we pretty much know the result with Kane, too. I fully expect Daniel Bryan to beat him and retain the title. But if he was going to be wrestling Batista, and Batista is supposed to be taking some time off right after Payback to promote his movie, who in the hell is going to think that Batista has any chance of winning the title against Daniel Bryan? So the whole internet story about Batista, changing his mind and being a little bit difficult and not wanting to job or work with this guy or work with that guy, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt, because the Batista that I've seen on TV lately has not been behaving that way. He's been losing. And Batista can't lose them all. You might not like Batista. I'm no Batista fan, but even I understand that this guy did not come back to job at every single pay-per-view. He is going to have his moment, and he probably will win the WWE title sometime this year. It almost seems like that's impossible to avoid, especially if he was promised, a run with the world title before coming back. The WWE had to change their plans, and they might have had to tell him, you know what, Daniel Bryan is too over right now. He's going to have to win the title at WrestleMania, but don't worry, you're going to get your shot at the title later on this year. So maybe SummerSlam or Survivor Series or something like that, Batista will get a shot and maybe actually win the title. That's going to suck. None of us are going to like that, but we should be getting used to the fact that there's a really good possibility that Batista might actually, dethrone Daniel Bryan and his WWE title reign. Daniel Bryan also had a great match on Raw against Alberto Del Rio. They went a couple of commercial breaks. It was close to a 20-25 minute match. They did well. And I got to shout out Ross, otherwise known as Gold Standard on YouTube and Twitter. He tweeted a nice wrestling fun fact that up until that match, apparently, Daniel Bryan was 0-6 against Alberto Del Rio. That is crazy. But before the match, and I think after the match, I forget the sequence of events now, but this was a really bad storyline with Daniel Bryan and Stephanie and Brie Bella. Brie hanging around Daniel Bryan, I don't like, because it just never works out. I think of when Deborah was hanging around Stone Cold. Yeah, they were married in real life, but get her the fuck out of there. She does nothing for him. And I think in a lot of ways, sometimes the women can ruin it, but Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella are married now. I don't like the idea of Brie coming out there for every single Daniel Bryan match. I understand that the WWE has no choice, because of total divas and social networking and media and all that. Everybody knows that Daniel and Brie are married, but I don't think they need to be involved with each other in storylines in wrestling all the time. I just wish they could keep them separate, but it's going to be a little tough to do that, in today's day and age of information and everybody knowing everything. But the segments on Raw and the way they were, hiding in their dressing room, and Stephanie came in and originally said, hey, I'm going to have your car pulled up. I'm going to pull it into the building. You guys can get out of here. They get in the car, and then Stephanie's like, oh, by the way, you can't leave. Daniel Bryan, you've got to face Alberto Del Rio. And I don't remember, did Brie have a match too? Either way, what the fuck did Stephanie say she's going to bring the car around for if she's just going to tell him to get out of the car and go back out to the ring? It was fucking dumb. So I think after the match with Alberto Del Rio, then they're getting in the car. And of course, the car doesn't start. And Daniel Bryan's freaking out. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of a couple years ago, or whenever the fuck it was, with Eve Torres and Zack Ryder, when Kane was tormenting them. And didn't the car have a flat tire or something like that? And Zack Ryder had to try to change the tire, and to try to get away from Kane. It was just so fucking dumb. Somebody mentioned to me that, WWE's doing this on purpose to bury Daniel Bryan because they don't like that he's champion. What the fuck? No, WWE is just stupid, that's all. It has nothing to do with them wanting to harm Daniel Bryan. They would not give this guy the moment he had at WrestleMania 30 just to tear him down 3 weeks later, okay? It doesn't work that way. I think Daniel Bryan is a victim of not having enough balls to say, hey, I am not going to fucking do that because that's fucking stupid. I guarantee you CM Punk would have stood up for himself. So Daniel Bryan, I think, is really humble. He's a nice guy. He's a professional, but I wish he had a little bit bigger, balls or ego where he could say, hey, look, this is fucking dumb. My fans are going to hate me for doing this, and it's going to make me and my wife look like a couple of idiots. And it did. It was a horrendous segment. I mean, just so stupid. The WWE, They don't need to try to do anything like that. It's not a fucking horror movie. Yes, Kane is a fucking monster, but Kane can also be a pussy whenever he's not wearing the mask. I don't have any problem with Kane and Daniel Bryan feuding. I don't have any problem with Kane being a monster, a demon, a very, very dangerous individual. But the steps that they went to on Raw to try to show that, and I just didn't like it at all. I would like Daniel Bryan to get through this feud with Kane as quickly as possible so he can move on to something a little bit more interesting and something that's a little bit less cringeworthy. As far as the main event goes, we fast forward to the Wyatts versus The Shield. You know Evolution is going to make an appearance in this match. That's exactly what happened. These two factions are having their match. Evolution's music just hits. They come down to the ring, and long story short, a big brawl winds up with Evolution standing over a beaten down Shield and doing the Shield's, fist thing or whatever to close out the show. So the feud between The Shield and Evolution is not over yet. And like I said, the internet reports of Batista not wanting to do this and not wanting to do that. He is going to be staying around for Payback, apparently. He's going to be still involved with this feud with Evolution and The Shield. And I don't know what they're going to do, if they're going to have another match of some kind, maybe a gimmick match. They already had a no-holds-barred brawl at Extreme Rules that was just awesome. So what other sort of gimmick or twist can they put on this six-man match if they're going to have it? I have an idea. How about book it just like Fully Loaded 2000? Do 3 one-on-one matches. How about Roman Reigns versus Batista, Seth Rollins versus Randy Orton, and Dean Ambrose versus Triple H? I think that would be awesome. I think a Dean Ambrose and Triple H feud would be really good, and I think Seth Rollins and Randy Orton can have some great matches. Batista and Roman Reigns, not so much, but they're two big badass monsters, and Roman Reigns could be filling the role of a Batista in upcoming years. So I think pairing the 6 of those guys off in those ways would make for the best matches. And I think if they did something like that at Payback, I would be thrilled. That would be 3 almost guaranteed pretty good matches that you would have right on the card, not even including what Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt do in their matches. So I would love to see something like that, and that could be, you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You could break up the Shield, and have them in 3 individual matches, but also keep them together at the same time. And just like they did at Fully Loaded 2000, where they tested out Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, Chris Jericho to see how they could do individually on a big stage, I think they can do the same thing with the Shield. But instead of the 3 big established stars winning their matches, I say the 3 up-and-comers win the matches. I would love to see all 3 members of the Shield beat all 3 members of Evolution in one-on-one matches. Is that going to happen? I don't know. Batista apparently is going to be leaving for a few months or a few weeks, so I can see him jobbing. Randy Orton and Seth Rollins, I'm not sure, and I have no idea whether Triple H will agree to put Dean Ambrose over, but I think he should. I unfortunately have to touch on a couple of other unfortunate aspects of Raw. Adam Rose has made his debut. You know what? I just flat out fucking hate this guy. I'm sorry. It's almost like Fandango. It's nothing against the wrestler. I'm sure the kid has worked hard. He wouldn't make it up to the main roster if he didn't know what he's doing. But it's the character. This is exactly why I would never want to be a wrestler today. Imagine if you just put your whole life, dedicate your life to becoming a pro wrestler because you love wrestling, you love the art, and then you get to the big leagues and they slap a stupid-ass fucking gimmick on you like that. I know wrestling is entertaining and it's got to have its over-the-top and flamboyant characters. I get that. But how can you ever take this guy seriously? Fandango is never going to main event WrestleMania. Are you kidding me? Fucking Adam Rose, is he ever going to be, facing Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam? Fuck no. This guy is going to be a joke for his entire career, unless they shed the gimmick and give him something else. Once you are in a gimmick like that, a goofy-ass, dancing around, lollipop-sucking little fairy boy, how can you ever be taken seriously? I'm not saying that Adam Rose isn't good in the ring. Fandango was good in the ring. The WWE and a lot of the fans like to say, oh, WWE was all high on Fandango and then they just pulled the carpet out from under him. No, the fans like Fandango because they like singing his theme song. And the WWE might have put the brakes on his push, but how far would he have gone? Fandango was never going to work with Triple H or Batista or Brock or anybody like that. He's a fucking joke. The character is a joke. The wrestler is good, but the character is a joke. And I think Adam Rose is in the same boat. He may provide some entertaining moments. Don't get me wrong. Maybe Adam Rose will grow on me. Maybe they'll do things, because you got to get used to a guy. You can't just bring him out the first week and say, oh, I hate this guy. Fuck it. I'm not going to support him. I'll let him try. I'll let him try to grow on me. But no matter what happens, Adam Rose is never going to be considered a serious contender for anything. But that's the nature of the beast today. You know, you want to be a pro wrestler if you're a young athletic kid and you want to go through, you know, wrestling school and get to the WWE and get to the developmental system. It's not like the old days anymore where you work for a little local independent promotion and the promoter says, hey, you know, you need to come up with a ring name. You know, you got 15 minutes to come up with one. Go. I'll be back in 15 and you better have one. It doesn't work that way anymore. You have almost no input on what your character is going to be like, and the WWE and all of their trainers and their management is going to take a look at you and they're going to put a gimmick that they feel best suits you. And all I can say is if I busted my ass in wrestling school and then I worked in the developmental system for a couple of years, you know, busting my ass to make it to the main roster, and I have to show up on a big bus with fucking Easter bunnies and goddamn lollipops, I'd quit. I just think the character's a fucking joke. That's fine. So is Santino Marella. He's a fucking joke too. But the problem is that it completely pigeonholes these wrestlers into a situation where they are never going to be taken seriously unless you completely strip off their gimmick, send them away for a few months, and then bring them back as a fresh new character. That's the only way that Adam Rose is ever going to be world champion. This bus-riding, lollipop-sucking queen is never going to make Daniel Bryan or Brock Lesnar tap out of anything. As far as what else happened on Raw, you know, I can't even think right now off the top of my head. They did a little bit more with Cody and Goldust. I don't even know if they had a little spat this week, but Cody lost to Ryback. It's only a matter of time before they do the split. I've actually been wanting them to do it now. I don't know what they're waiting for. It's like, okay, WWE, we get it. Stop teasing us. We know the Rhodes brothers are going to break up, so go ahead and fucking break them up. Let Cody be a heel. Let Goldust put him over and let Cody move on to some other things. Let's get the ball rolling on this, please. Other than that, I really don't have anything else written down to discuss. There was some sad news. A lot of you guys were sending me it on Facebook and Twitter. There is a video out of the WWE paying tribute to that little kid, Connor, who had, I think, terminal cancer. He was terminally ill. Big fan of Daniel Bryan's. He was at WrestleMania 30. I think he passed away just a few days after that, around the same time that Daniel Bryan's dad passed away. Well, now the video has been making the rounds on YouTube showing what the WWE and all the wrestlers did for this kid, and it is extremely sad. It's very, very sad to see a kid go through that, but it's also, you know, you are almost happy, you know, seeing all those wrestlers do that for him, and what a funny kid he was. You know, there's so many kids like him that are terminally ill, you know, and that's another argument I make to John Cena. You know, have a heart, you know, be an adult. I know John Cena annoys people. I know he drives everybody fucking crazy. I get that totally. And I agree with a lot of the Cena hating comments. You know, I just don't agree with the intensity of them. And there's 175 wrestlers on the roster with 3 different shows per week and a whole WWE goddamn network. I couldn't imagine one wrestler ruining the show for me. But when you think about what John Cena does for kids like this Connor kid, I know he was a big Daniel Bryan fan, but there's a lot of others, you know, that just live for John Cena. I would almost hate to break these little kids' hearts. You know, these little 5 to 10-year-olds that idolize John Cena. Who was your hero when you were 5 years old? Wasn't your bedroom wall covered in posters of this person? You know, and didn't you just live and breathe for this one particular guy? A lot of kids, to them, John Cena is their life. You know, they're obsessed with him. That might sound crazy to somebody in their 20s and 30s, but it doesn't sound crazy to an 8-year-old. You know, so I think a lot of these people that want to kill John Cena, you know, that's just fucking rude and disrespectful. So when I saw that little kid and I saw, you know, how happy he was to be around those wrestlers and how great the WWE treated him, you have to think of it from that perspective. I think the WWE, even though they're PG, they're doing as good a job as they can to cater to as many demographics as possible. The WWE Network has plenty of TV 14 shows on there. That shit is completely unedited. Once a year, we get the Extreme Rules pay-per-view where we get a little bit of blood and a flaming table here or there, things like that. So I think the WWE is doing the best that they can under the circumstances, and seeing the happiness that those wrestlers brought to that little kid, you know, kind of puts a whole new spin, you know, on the John Cena thoughts and the hating and stuff like that, you know. Can't you just let the WWE do their thing with him? John Cena means the world to some of these little kids, and some of these little kids are terminally ill, you know, just to give them that little bit of happiness. And for us older wrestling fans, all we have to do is suffer through a few stupidly booked John Cena matches here and there. You know, I think that's fine, you know, and I think that I would be willing to sit through a stupid John Cena match if it puts a smile on the face of a young kid or a terminally ill kid. You know, as an adult, I think that's the least I owe them. So I think that's it for this week. I did want to mention the WWE Network really quick. I have really been enjoying the network. There's a lot of good stuff on there now. They just recently this week added all of the Clash of Champions, which is really cool. Those shows go way back. I have all of those taped off of TV, off the original broadcast. You know, to this day, I still own them. But they're grainy and they're old, and it's nice to see, you know, the WWE put the Clashes up on the network. I hope they put Saturday Night's Main Event up there as well. That will be awesome because there's a ton of shows there, 50 or 60 shows that they can add once they put up SNME. Also, I think we've all been watching Legends House. It's a pretty good show, I have to say. We're 3 episodes in. I don't know how much of it is scripted and how much of it is real or whatever, but it sounds like Tony Atlas and Hacksaw Jim Duggan are about to come to blows. And I like Tony Atlas, I really do, but goddamn, that man is just a fucking idiot. I mean, he comes off as a completely stupid person on that show, and he kind of is, but at the same time, Piper comes off as a stupid person also, and also comes off as an asshole. In that last episode where they're trying to film that commercial, you know, Tony Atlas is all lazy. He doesn't want to fucking do anything. And then finally, when he does try to contribute, Roddy Piper shuts him down. And that's when Tony Atlas was like, fuck this, you know, finally, I give my opinion on something. I try to contribute, you know, and then they just don't want to hear my opinion. So if you don't want to hear it, I'm not going to fucking participate. So they're all acting like a bunch of fucking babies. And it's just so funny how no matter who you are, no matter what age, man, woman, old, young, nobody can get along when you put 8 fucking people in a house. And I'm wondering how intense it's going to get, and I'm wondering how much of it is really played up for the camera, you know, and I'm curious to what's going to happen between Hacksaw and Tony Atlas. These guys have to live together, you know, in the same room. I hope nobody tries to choke each other out in the fucking bedroom when they're sleeping or something like that, but, you know, I know all these guys survived. This show was taped, I think, 2 years ago, but still, the dynamic between Hacksaw and Roddy and Tony Atlas is getting a little bit intense on the show, and Jimmy Hart, my God, what is his problem? If you were going to watch this show and you were going to say which one of all those legends is gay, you know, he's the first guy I'm going to pick, not Pat Patterson. I mean, he's such a pansy. He's such a little delicate flower, and he prances around in his little high-pitched voice, and he's such a little damn weirdo. You know, I've always loved Jimmy Hart. His career in wrestling, you know, spans decades, but man, he's just such a funny little, you know, effeminate Southern man, and he just cracks me up. I'm really enjoying Legends House, and I'm really enjoying the network. That is easily worth $10 a month. That is it for me for tonight. Keep an eye out in the next day or two. My next installment of my pay-per-view and DVD reviews will be up. It's almost finished, just putting the finishing touches on it, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and adding some bells and whistles, and that review will be up in a couple of days, and it is a DVD review. That's all I'm going to tell you. You'll have to wait and see exactly which DVD it is that I'm going to review, and then after this one, I'll go back to doing a pay-per-view. The requests have been flying in for this stuff. I've got them all logged, written down. I've got a hit list, pay-per-views and DVDs that I want to do. So if you've requested one, I will do my best to get to it eventually, but don't hold your breath. So keep an eye out for that video this weekend, and depending on how good or bad Monday Night Raw is, I may or may not be up here on Tuesday with a commentary. I'm just not sure yet. We're just going to be getting into the beginning stages of booking Payback. So maybe if next week's Raw is anything like this previous week's Raw, you know, I might just continue to work on some pay-per-view and DVD reviews that week instead of coming up here and doing a commentary. So I will basically just completely play next week by ear. So have a great rest of your week, and I will catch you guys soon. Peace.